Hey everyone, Shawn Clement here, Wisdom in Golf at the fantastic Royal Quebec Golf Club here in Quebec City. Welcome again to our fabulous studio, and today we're going to be talking about everything related to wrists in the golf swing. And you're going to see that so many of you are already playing other disciplines and sports that relate exactly and directly to your golf swing, okay? So let's start with my favorite, fishing. So if I'm going fishing, I got my fishing pole in my hands, and you'll notice that I am letting my fishing pole load up on my anatomical snuff box. So the snuff box is that little cavity here above your thumb where your wrists can hinge, and this is exactly how we go about loading and releasing that fishing pole. Now, if I was going to cast that a lot farther, well, then it would become like a tennis serve. So if you look at a tennis serve, you know, if I'm getting a tennis ball, especially with the second serve, you'll notice that it's loading on the snuff box. It looks like I'm going to split that tennis ball in half, and then after the release, there's this wonderful pronation where it rehinges on that snuff box again. So release into a rehinge. If you had a fencing sword in your hands, this one's easy. Stand up, grab your club upside down, hold it right there, just below the club head. Imagine your blade is right there, right? So along the whole blade. And I'm going to cut through a vertical bamboo shoot. So notice how my body would tilt to the side, my elbow would lead, the beginning of the cut, the end of the cut, and then there would come the pronation, the inward rotation of the arm, and the rehinge. Now I can go ahead and cut in the other direction. See that? Beginning of cut, end of cut, release, and supinate. Outward rotation into a hinge. So if I'm a guide in the jungle, well, I'm able to give it a nice release in both directions, and that's how you're going to really develop the correct feel for that hinge. And you notice when we go fishing, there's no collapse. Your brain is a fantastic tool, and it's always seeking the path of least resistance. So you wouldn't throw darts with a collapsed arm. You notice when you're throwing darts, your arm is never collapsing into your body. There's always a little tone in there. It's the same thing when you're going to cast that fishing pole. The fishing pole will never collapse, and that is exactly, and you'll see in our next video on how to shorten the backswing for power. There's a very specific reason for that. This is one of them, so I'm giving you a nice heads up. So you may want to, actually you will want to subscribe to the channel. So hit that subscribe button and that bell notification thingy, and so that you're advised when I bring my next video out. So we've got a wonderfully supported cast of that fishing pole. If we cast farther, then we have that full release and that rehinge on the other side. Well, isn't that exactly how you would hammer that nail, right? So you notice how everything is hinging up and down. And this is where, if you look at the structure of the arm, you have the radius and the ulna, right? Radius is right here on top. So when the bones of the arm stack up, they really do a great job at compressing. So if I wanted to move in that direction, if I've got to hammer a nail in the direction of the target, well, notice none of my students do this. See how weak and slappy that is? So that's me slapping at it instead of driving through it. See that? So when I'm driving through the nail, the release of the hammer happens way out here. So again, release. Now I can hammer the other direction. Release, release. So notice how this motion is really, really natural. Just like if I was playing ping pong, there's my topspin backhand release. And there's my topspin forehand release. Topspin forehand, topspin backhand. So there's a wonderful circular release from the top of the humerus. So if you hold your arm out in front of you, palm up, you'll notice you'll feel some tension. Palm down, you won't. You fold the arm, go palm up, no tension. Palm down, especially if you're making a fist, you're going to feel a little tension in that forearm. So the arm is absolutely designed to perform circles. Now, what we want is to be releasing through the ball and toward the target and not at the ball. The ball is not your target. So when I'm releasing a sword through a bamboo shoot, notice I'm not going to be doing this. So I'm not releasing the sword and slapping the side of the bamboo shoot with the sword and then risking any injury. I am cutting through and out. And that's exactly how you want to do it here. So one of our favorite analogies at Wisdom in Golf, of course, is the grass whip. So if I was cutting dandelion stems or cutting grass with this thing, so notice I release into a hinge. Now I can release and rehinge. If you do something like this, you'll notice on the other side, it's going to really jam. So we're not looking to jam it into the ground. We're looking at releasing it through the cut. So if I've got a dandelion in disguise here, the ball, I cut through the stem. Notice how that ball is staying right there. So if I take my regular grass cutting tool, I see that dandelion stem, I gather into a nice hinge. You notice how everything is locked down. So my right arm is supporting, not collapsing, and my wrists are both loaded on the snuff boxes. So now when I'm going toward the target, my kinetic chain engages. I get a nice shift of weight. Then I get a nice clear. Notice how I'm in a great position to cut through that dandelion stem. And then just as I'm coming into impact, that right arm is now extending, collecting here, and releasing there. Because the ball will compress against that club face, right along the club face for a little bit, then release from it. So, and by the way, real quick, these new Ping Tour gloves, absolutely butter. I can't believe how good this thing feels. I just unwrapped it for the first time. I just got my supply in. And I'll be getting my my new Ping blueprints, my forged blades soon. I can't wait to see that. And also, for any of you standing on your feet all day, I am absolutely wearing these true knit shoes right out. So if you want to go to my website's Pro Shop page, and you'll see, you know, the Ping products, of course, and you're going to see the true shoes, which are absolutely phenomenal. I'm waiting for my second batch because I'm wearing these like 14 hours a day and wearing them completely out. They're absolutely like slippers. So I got my stem that I'm cutting through, and I'm cutting through the stem and along the ground. So in slow motion, it's going to look like this. Gather, fold hinge. Now everything's loaded. I'm going through the stem, going through the stem. So notice how everything is coming through first, my hands, then the shaft, then the heel of the club, then the toe of the club. So I'm collecting the ball here, and the ball's coming off the face there. Collect, release, right there. Then that ball comes off that club face, and then I'm releasing out and towards the target. So if I'm cutting grass in both directions, notice how it rehinges in both directions. It's very, very easy to do it in both. That's how I'm going to really get the right swing plane. If I can cut grass in both directions, I'm exactly on plane. And I got lots of videos to show you on that. So I see the stem, gather, and release through that stem and towards the target. Oh, man, that felt so good. I'm going to make sure that that's showing up on the machine here for you guys. There we go. So let's try that one more time. I see my dandelion stem, gather and load, cut through that dandelion stem. Wow. So, and this is where you're going to get way better distance. So if you look at the screen here, there's my carry 185, that's my 7-iron. 17.5 launch, that's the launch angle on average that you're going to see on tour, between 16.5 and 17.5. And then just a nice draw side spin right there, and just slightly started to the right and ended up a little left of the target. My peak height was 118 feet. So the velocity that you get out of that shot has everything to do with that load. So if I'm going fishing and I don't allow that wrist to hinge, now I find myself in that precarious position to shove. I want to be able to hinge but not collapse. Beautiful taut hinge. So here's a really cool exercise that you can do. So you set up, you take a backswing and stop. So I'm going to pretend I'm casting my fishing pole over your heads. So I'm casting that fishing pole towards you, and I'm going to reload now. Now that feels like I can really cast it out in front of you. So if I'm over here, feels like I'm going to cast it that way, no good. That I can cast, fantastic. This feels very sloppy. Feels like I have no tone and I've got a collapse on my hands. So when you're collapsed, that's where you're going to have a tendency to struggle. It's okay to have a little give in the elbow as long as you've got some really nice tone in the arm. So what we don't want is a collapsed arm, okay? So a nice tone in the arms, gather a nice taut hinge, and then we're going to cut through that dandelion stem in the direction of the target. And that's where you're going to see a lot of fabulous. So look at my, there's a video entitled Grass Whip Training Series. So it's about a half-an-hour video that we use this fabulous tool with. Where are you? There you go. So we got this fabulous grass whip. Has a nice heavy bronze medallion at the front here, which really encourages that pronated feel. And you can hear, for speed development, this is absolutely fantastic. So have a look at that Melhorn grass whip for wisdom in golf. And the other unit I wanted to talk to you about, hey, there you go. So let's finish with this. Little baseball. So if I'm batting a ball over the pitcher's head, look at how I'm setting my wrists. I'm waiting for the pitch. The pitch is always waiting on top of those snuff boxes. And when I get through into impact, there's the ball coming off the bat. And then I can't just stop there. There's so much velocity going into it. So that's where the weight of the bat is going to release the anatomy. You're going to get this beautiful rotation in the forearms, and then it's going to rehinge on the other side. So you have release and dissipate. So many you'll see are letting go of the bat. That's going to strain the shoulder if you don't get out of the way. But if you release and let it dissipate, see that? There's where you're going to feel that wonderful sensation. So I'm waiting for the pitch, and I'm releasing through the baseball out into the field. So impact is here, ball coming off bat here, and then there's that release into the finish. So we're releasing through the baseball and out into that field. So peak speed is out there, okay? So I hope you appreciate those little insights in all the disciplines that we're used to doing, in other sports or just daily tasks. And now I hope you understand how those wrists work. Have a look, and to put it together, obviously, I don't have time in this video to show you the whole thing. Have a look at Best Video on Grip Ever, Shawn Clement, And you'll see the reason behind the grip is obviously to facilitate this wonderful action of the wrists. And on our premium channel, of course, we've got this in fine details with 2 angles, and we can get into a more structured detail of what that is. So I just wanted to enlighten you on how those wrists were working today and the best way to move those wrists. I know you'll see some, and have a look at my bowed versus cupped wrist video. For those of you wondering about this bowing of the wrist at the top of the backswing, have a look at that video. I'll have it in the description for you, okay? All the best. We'll see you next time.